There's an adage that says water is life. Today, water, like other natural resources, is under extreme threat from a growing population, increasing demands of agriculture and industry, and the worsening impacts of climate change. At such a time as this, due to illegal mining activities, most rivers have become so muddy. It is important that we find sustainable solutions to the things we do, especially as the world battles environmental degradation. The potential of wastewater reuse has been underestimated and underexploited in Ghana. The linear approach to wastewater treatment has not been a sustainable one. When we use fresh water from our taps or elsewhere, we see the used water as dirty, and hence it is thrown away. And when the discarded wastewater is treated eventually, the water is discharged into water bodies without further usage. The sludge, on the other hand, is disposed of in landfills. However, these, the wastewater and sludge, are in a real sense resources that can be put to good use as raw materials in a circular economy.
We're looking at how can we recover resources from waste to be used in a different area in the industry. I would say the theoretical or academic disciplinary term that we base this project on is what we call a circular economy concept, where what you consider as waste in one industry would serve as an input in another industry. The collaboration for the Ghana case is between CSIR and Sewage Systems Ghana Limited. Sewage Systems Ghana Limited is the industry partner. It's the wastewater treatment facility, and they produce the biochar and also supply the water, treated water for use in urban agriculture. And in CSIR, there are 3 institutes that compose the CSIR group for this project. CSIR-Science and Technology Policy Research Institute, STEPRI, looks at the business model development, policy aspects of the project, public engagement, as well as governance.
Although transitioning from a linear to a circular economy is desirable, it involves every single individual and entity, businesses, governments, and households, cities in terms of land use planning, and so forth. Yes, joint efforts are required to transition from a linear model to a circular one. By designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating natural resources and systems, we can reinvent many things without extracting new or fresh resources. In the water sector, we can demonstrate innovative solutions that optimize water reuse, resource recovery, and energy usage. For instance, industry can contribute to the transition by developing competencies in circular design to implement product reuse, recycling, and serving as trendsetters of innovative circular economy business models. Policymakers can support the transition by revising public policy to promote the reuse of materials and higher resource productivity by redesigning incentives, providing a set of policy instruments, and promoting access to financing such initiatives. In this documentary, we will look at how wastewater has been treated, with a focus on reusing the treated water for urban agriculture and converting fecal sludge into biochar as an alternative to wood-based charcoal for use by small-scale enterprises. For this purpose, our team visits the Sewage Systems Ghana Limited (SSGL) to see at first hand the circular model of wastewater treatment in practice.
Wastewater treatment in totality is fundamentally in three sections. We have the primary treatment, we have the secondary treatment, and then the tertiary treatment. For technologies, they are variable technology depending on the region. However, whichever technology you apply, these are the three fundamental key areas that are in the treatment. That's the primary, secondary, and treatment. Now, when you go through from each of these treatments to the end, that is the old system of the linearity of treatment. You receive, you treat to meet standards, then you discharge.
The wastewater which is treated for water reuse is sourced differently. It is obtained from the sewer network system of Accra's Central Business District and portions of Labone, Usu, and Ministries, which terminates at the Mudo treatment plant operated by SSGL. Here at the Mudo treatment plant, the wastewater goes through a number of treatment processes to be ready for reuse in urban agriculture. The treatment process comprises primary treatment, which includes screening, grit removal; secondary treatment, which includes anaerobic digestion, sludge thickening; and tertiary treatment, which includes digested sludge drying. For the purposes of reusing the treated wastewater for agriculture, another level of treatment has been added at SSGL Mudo treatment plant, where the water is sent through a filtration system that has sand media and activated charcoal. After filtering, the water is disinfected and discharged by means of trucks to the demonstration site for farm irrigation purposes, where it is then released into a shallow reservoir in which the water flows gradually until it is discharged by means of mechanized irrigation to the farmers. The shallow reservoir allows for further treatment of the water as it flows.
CSIR Water Research is the other CSIR institute involved here, and what they do is to do the water quality assessment, look at the risks associated with the water, the risks associated with the vegetables, the quality of the vegetables, look at the soil test, look at the quality of the soil, because we are using wastewater to want to see the effect or the impact of the use of that water on the soil.
Basically, what we're doing here is to improve the quality of water that the farmers use for irrigation. This water you see has already been treated, but then when it's brought from the Mudo treatment plant, it cannot be discharged onto the plants directly from the tankers. It has to be stored so that anytime the farmers need it, they can use it. There is, however, a challenge when you store the water. And the challenge basically is that microbes that were destroyed during treatment at the Mudo treatment plant can get resuscitated during storage. It's a process that is known as dark repair of microbial cells. Fortunately, there is a process usually known as natural disinfection process or natural treatment systems, where algae plays a major role in the destruction of the pathogens. So once you discharge the wastewater from the polytanks, it comes into this pond that you see, and immediately algae develops in the wastewater because of the nutrient presence in the wastewater. Within 3 days, it will turn green in color simply because of the presence of microalgae. Now, these microalgae are responsible for destroying the pathogens that are present as a result of the resuscitation of the previously inactivated microbes.
A visit to the demonstration farm at CSIR Water Research Institute serves as a direct testimony of how the water reuse in agriculture is demonstrated. Here, the farmer works with ease, knowing that he has a ready source of water to irrigate his farm all year round. A look at the farm shows the direct effect of using the treated water.
The water we are using, we are trying to make sure that we are not extracting raw water for use in agriculture, for example. So that the water that we have used, we don't end up throwing it, discarding it, treating it and discarding it, and it flows away into the Korle Lagoon and then into the sea or where else. But we can also use that in a production process, like for example in urban farming, to grow vegetables. Whereas in the process of farming, as it is now, farmers will be using the gutter water for irrigating or extracting fresh water from the ground or using treated water by Ghana Water Company to irrigate the vegetable. Whereas we should be using this treated wastewater to do it. So if we have to take this up on a wider scale, what it means is that in the future, as we build wastewater treatment plants, we have to think about the land zonation. How can we use the land around it to use the water to grow crops or vegetables to feed the city? As part of this project, we are looking at developing a business model that can suit the farmers that are using the water, as well as suit the SSGL that is treating the water and supplying. So that if the farmers are getting premium value for their vegetables, we tell the general public that, look, buying vegetables from these farmers is safe. Although they use treated wastewater, we have tested the vegetables and certified them to be safe for consumption. They'll get good price for their produce as they would get from if they, say for example, they were supplying to supermarkets or to big restaurants. That way also, they can then pay for the transportation of the water, the supply of the water to be delivered to them, and then they can continue. So basically, the idea is to utilize this whole concept of the circular economy where materials are constantly or circularly being used in the production process as much as possible without bringing in new material, or even if we're not bringing in too much of new raw materials in the production and consumption process.
Another innovative initiative to close the loop for a circular model of wastewater treatment is the production of biochar from fecal sludge, an energy source that is expected to replace wood-based charcoal originating from the savanna zones in northern Ghana. Fecal sludge has become one of the innovative sources of energy due to its availability. Since its establishment, SSGL has 3 fecal treatment plants in the Greater Accra region. The Lavender Hill Fecal Treatment Plant, situated by the Korle Lagoon, the Kotoku Fecal Treatment Plant, situated at Ajane Kotoku, and the Mudo Sewerage Treatment Plant at Jamestown, which is the end point for all sewerage lines networked and connecting over 170,000 households in parts of the city of Accra. From the primary treatment for screening and grit removal, through the secondary treatment, which involves the anaerobic digestion and sludge thickening, leading to the final treatment of digested sludge drying, the dried sludge is sent to the biochar production plant. Engineer Ahmed Isahaku elaborates on the biochar production process.
Attention have not been given to the bio-base, which is from human feces. That is why our case is in a way a novel in its own. Because one of the tedious ways to handle wastewater management is the handling of the sludge. You generate a whole lot of volume of sludge, and handling it is an issue. So once you are able to convert it to a useful product, then your circularity or your cleanness in the treatment is becoming complete.
This documentary seeks to provide visibility for the demonstration of the production of biochar and to engage the public, creating an awareness and promoting its usage as a substitute for wood fuel, thus highlighting the need to patronize it as an alternative to wood-based charcoal. The biochar produced is subjected to scientific tests to ensure that it is safe for use in heating and cooking. Dr. Odro elaborates the tests conducted on the biochar with regards to firepower, heavy metals, and other parameters.
According to the population and housing census, biomass fuel is one of the critical fuels that is used both in urban and rural areas in Ghana. For instance, in the rural areas, about 80% of the population use biomass fuel in the form of either firewood or charcoal. And if you come to the urban centers, about 50% of the population use biomass as a source of heating fuel. So it is a critical part in the fuel mix in Ghana. For us to introduce any alternative source of fuel, there are key parameters that we need to look at. We need to look at the quality of the fuel, because eventually we're going to introduce it to a community. We are going to introduce it to users who are used to a particular kind of fuel in their process. And we don't want to introduce something that would jeopardize their process. We need to introduce something that would be a smooth transition from tree-dependent fuel to other alternative sources of fuel. So we need to look at first the quality of the fuel in terms of the energy that it is released in the process of burning. And then we also need to look at the emission properties, that whilst burning the source of fuel, what kind of emissions, it could be carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and also particulate matter, that is the small particles that are within the smoke of any kind of fuel. What kind of exposures are the cook or the one who is using that type of fuel exposed to when they switch from their traditional biomass fuel to this kind of fuel? We need to understand all these parameters and ensure that indeed when we deploy it, it is not going to be a health hazard. It would ensure safety, and then the environment would also be sound. Averagely, every adult human being produces about 200 to 300 grams of poo every day. If we look at the Greater Accra population, according to the 2020 population and housing census, we are looking at about 5 million residents in the Greater Accra region. That comes to close to about 200 metric tons of poo daily that is produced in the Greater Accra region. If you look at the poo, 20% of it is made up of water. Okay, so in the treatment process, if you are able to dry it and take the water out, you are left with solid matter of about 240 metric tons, which is produced every day. This 240 metric tons of solid mass is carbon which can be used for fuel. So in partnership with our private sector, which is the Sewage Systems Ghana Limited, we are looking at carbonizing it. Carbonizing means we're taking it through a temperature treatment. And that temperature treatment ensures that if there are any microorganisms, if there are any volatile matter which would affect the user when it is used directly, those volatile matter and microorganisms are taken off. So you are left with carbon, and that carbon can then be produced in a form of a briquette. That is what is referred to as the biofuel or the biochar. And this biochar, we think, can be very complementary to the traditional source of biomass which we have, which is the charcoal. From the calorific value that we have determined, it is very comparable to charcoal. So this is a very innovative way of using our human waste to generate energy, which could then be used to cook food for us to eat, and then we generate more waste. So it is a kind of a cycle. It's a material cycle process where we're not importing new energy or new materials into the system, but we're already using the carbon that is already existent in our environment to generate energy for ourselves.
Dr. Gordon Akom-Yanga speaks on the social acceptance of the biochar and relates it to a great business model to ensure the wider uptake of biochar in Ghana.
Accepting resources recovered from waste. That's a mentality issue, because if you say that this is something from waste, your attitude towards it is like, ball idea or something from waste. You know, you don't want to go close to it or touch it. And so we need to get people to understand that yes, it may be from waste, but it had gone through a certain rigorous process that has reduced or removed all the risks associated with waste material to make it safe or safer for human consumption or usage. And so if you look at the partnerships, we have the research partnerships looking at the quality and safety of the innovations. Innovations here, look at, we're talking about the biochar and then the water, so that we can be assured that when the public consumes or uses these resources or these solutions, they will not be harmed, as well as will not be harming the environment. And then we have the private sector partner that is actually producing or developing the innovations.
Biochar has been introduced to my business by CSIR, and it has been of tremendous help to us. Yes, because charcoal has become very expensive now, not to talk of LPG and electricity. Yes, so I will encourage everybody to embrace this new initiative by CSIR. We produce cosmetics and detergents, so some of our cosmetics use heat. So instead of using wood charcoal or gas or electricity, we have substituted all those with biochar, and it is very easy to use. The biochar does not burn fast, but it retains the heat in it for a longer period as compared to wood charcoal.
This project has been made possible by the kind support of the European Commission through the Horizon 2020 framework that supports research and innovation action.